Are you happy? Are you content? Well, today I want to talk about some of the things I have noticed just by observing my grandchildren in this last week that I believe have helped me to understand contentedness a little bit better, or the way that maybe we should be viewing it from God's perspective. And it all starts with a niece that my wife and I have that's going into high school. And she had just hundreds and hundreds of little toy figurines that she had collected through the years. And well, now it was time for her to be getting rid of them. And so she wanted to make a little bit of extra money, and she definitely wanted to get rid of these things. And so my wife bought the whole set of them. And when she brought them home and started showing them to me, I could tell very quickly that this was going to be something that would make the grandkids very happy. And so she just took a few of them and she stuck them in a small bag. And that night we went to the worship service, and we walked in the door, and our 3-year-old granddaughter immediately comes running up to us and she says, "What's in the bag?" And so her grandma said, "Well, look and see." Oh, and when she did, she was just thrilled. She immediately took the bag and ran to show her 4-year-old brother, and he was thrilled. Well, it was about time for worship to start, and they just climbed up onto the pew next to us, and they opened that bag and they split the figurines, and so during our song service, they occupied themselves in a very contented fashion. And when it was over, probably over before they would have imagined it being over, they were still wanting to play. But they put them up, and they'll be there for the next time that we see them. And then there's, again, hundreds of these things, so there's all sorts of things for them to discover. All for just a few cents each for each one of these little toys. Well, earlier in the same week, our other set of grandkids came for a surprise visit, and so we had a little plastic ball and bat set, and it has a little launcher on it. You'd push the ball down into the launcher, and it was spring-loaded, and a second or two later it'd fling the ball up in the air, and they would bat at it. Well, we have a 6-year-old grandson and a 7-year-old granddaughter, and so it's hard for them to watch the other one play. And so for another $6, we just bought another set. And so the two of them just went out and played with that for I don't know, hour or two. And then their little brother, 2 years old, found a little toy kitchen that we have sitting out on the back porch. A friend had given that to us for our grandkids years ago, and our grandkids have just loved playing with it. All of them have just enjoyed it at one time or another. And so our little 2-year-old grandson's out there and just enjoying all the little places that toy kitchenette has. And every once in a while he would pause and break. We'd had a recent rain, and he'd try and go over and start lapping up water from a puddle on the ground until his mother saw what he was doing. And then he went over to the bird bath we have out in our backyard and stuck his face in that until his mother saw what he was doing. But my point of all this is each one of them were just absolutely content. And I've seen them not so content, don't get me wrong, but what was it that made him content? It was something that was really simple. Didn't cost a lot of money, if it cost any money at all, but it was something that they enjoyed, that they could focus on. They didn't have to have a lot of other things. They had something that they liked. And there's a secret in that, I believe, for we as adults. Because as adults, as we grow up and we start bridging that moment from childhood to being an adult, and you go through your teen years, it seems like the contentment starts to slowly evaporate. You long for that video game that all your friends have, and you finally get it, and oh, you're just thrilled to pieces. But it's not too long until you're sitting there in front of your video game, maybe just like you did for hours yesterday and hours the day before, but it doesn't look like you're content. As a matter of fact, if you look at somebody who's been playing a video game for a while, there's almost a glazed over zombie-like look. And while their brains might be working a little bit and their fingers and their thumbs might be working, they're just not really, it doesn't seem that happy with what they're doing. You don't hear so much the squeals of delight as you hear the grunts of dissatisfaction when something doesn't go their way. They get frustrated, and it doesn't change. After that, we get older and you get your first car and you just can't believe that you've got that car, but after a while that new car is older and it needs repairs. You get older still and you get that house and it just seems wonderful, and then you get a bigger house, but with the houses come bills, and with the bigger houses come bigger bills. And very often something happens between being a child and being an adult that, while it may be subtle and it might be interrupted with occasional moments of excitement, it seems like something happens where our contentment level drops. And for some people, it disappears altogether. Why is that? I suspect part of it is they have failed to be able to enjoy the simple things in life. And another part of it is the things that we often like as we grow older cost money. And while we might not think we have a love for money, we certainly have a love for the things money can buy, and that's about the same thing when you think about it. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5 says this: "Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Because God has said, 'Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you.'" That's the recipe for contentment, isn't it? If you and I can start to be satisfied with what we have instead of being dissatisfied with the things that we don't. It's not that it's wrong to want to get certain things, to better ourselves and to have a better environment. There's nothing wrong with that type of thinking. But the type of thinking that leads us to always be dissatisfied, to always want more, to the point where we're almost coveting what other people have. And our lust for these physical things turns into a greed and then an idolatry. And we take our sight off of what we're here for, God, and we start putting it on things. And as we do that, as we take our focus off of the Creator and put our focus on the created, we lose our contentment. If you're in a situation like that, what can you do? And of course, the answer is just what the inspired writer of Hebrews said. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. It's true that our little grandkids could have had a million other different things, but they were content with what was right in front of them. It's not always so, obviously. And our kids often want what the other kids have, and they become discontent at that point. But a little guidance, and before too long, they're happy again, and they're focusing and they're concentrating. You remember what it was like when you were a kid. There was something you enjoyed doing. When I was a kid, I had a Stingray bicycle that I just rode around for years, literally, and not all at once, but just a period of years. It was my freedom. After school, I'd ride my bike. I'd ride my bike to school. I'd ride my bike home from school. I'd ride to the store. I'd sling my mitt over the handlebars and go find as many kids as I could. We'd have a baseball game in the neighborhood. Or you'd find somebody that was out playing basketball or frisbee or football or something. And you just, whatever was going on, you could usually find something that would really bring a great amount of happiness to your life. And the reason was because you didn't have those high expectations for the expensive things. You know, very often it's the richest kids who seem to be the most unhappy. And very often it's the kids who don't have as many of life's physical goods that seem to just be happy wherever they go. And I believe there is something for we as adults to learn from that. It's not the outward things that make us happy, though there's a lot of things that we can enjoy that are outward. But it really is our peace of mind. We when we're young, we have a peace of mind if we have loving parents, because we know they're going to take care of us. We don't worry about what we're going to eat or where we're going to live, because we know our parents will take care of that. And so we can kind of concentrate on the things that kids concentrate on, playing and having fun. God does not just give us everything. Obviously, we do have to work for a living. But very often he gives us very pleasant employment. Very often he gives us very satisfying things to do with which to be able to earn money to provide the food and clothing and houses. And really, when you think about it, because of that, these things come from God as well. I realize there's a lot of so-called self-made men and self-made women who don't think that God's given them anything, but they should just think about it for a moment, because if he was to withdraw his breath, they would cease to exist. We're all here as part, I suppose you might put it, as a test. Will we serve God? Will we serve him the way that he wants us to serve him? Good times and bad times. Will we make him our God, or will we make money our idol? Because if we will recognize God, if we will embrace Jesus as our Savior, if we'll live to the standards that they have set for us, if we'll truly help other people, there's a good life out there, a life filled with happiness, with contentment. God wants you to be happy. That's why he commands us not to do certain things, because he knows that there are certain things that will make us very unhappy, that will be harmful to other people. My grandson that wanted to lap up the water off of the ground thought that would make him happy, but his mother very quickly let him know that that wasn't good for him. There are some things that we're out just straining at the leash, so to speak, trying to lap up the puddle water, and God has said don't do that, because he knows that there are certain things that are bad for us. But there are so many things to be enjoyed in life that are right for us to enjoy. There is a contentment that comes from a job well done, a service to God well given. It's not that we're somehow earning our salvation, but he does have certain expectations of us. And we are called servants, not masters. And we need to keep that in mind as well. But getting back to this idea of contentment, are you content? Because if you're not, it's very likely you've lost sight of what it is that makes us content. It's the simple things in life. It's learning to be satisfied with what we have, not being dissatisfied with what we don't have. It's learning to be able to earn certain things that we really would kind of like to have without making an idol of them. And then once we get those things that have been rightfully earned, then enjoy them with thanksgiving to God who allows us to enjoy them. True contentment comes from the inside. True peace that passes all understanding can only come from God. It's when we learn the source of our blessings, the source of every good thing in life, that we'll truly become content. And I believe that will be the time that we truly become worthwhile, not only as a servant of God, which is most important, but we also become worthwhile to other people. We become better friends, we become better neighbors, we become better spouses, better parents, better children, when we have our focus where it needs to be. If you want to be content, start being satisfied with what you have. And stop thinking so much about how much better life would be if only you had more money so you could buy this thing or that thing that you think would make you happy. Contentedness will always come from the inside because it comes from God. And if we can enjoy the things that God allows us to enjoy, again with appreciation and thanksgiving, it'll be a pretty good life. And then someday there'll be heaven. Do you remember what it was like to be contented? If you've lost that, may I recommend that you turn back to God. Get your focus upon the things that you really need to be focused upon. And I believe that contentedness will come back to you. And it will help everybody around you as well. Well, that's the thought for today. I hope it's something that's uplifting. Hope it gives you something to think about. But I really do appreciate your watching today, and I hope that we'll see you again next time. But until then, I pray that God will richly bless you as you seek to serve Him to the best of your ability. And by doing that, find the contentment that our loving Father has for His beloved children. God bless.